Hi, my name is Maceo Lewis. Welcome to ML Movie Reviews. Today I'm going to talk about Predator Killer of Killers. It's right now streaming on Hulu. Now, normally I don't talk about streaming movies when I do these reviews or out of theater reactions, obviously, because I'm not in the theater, but also I just focus on commenting on movies that are released theatrically. But I'm going to make an exception here because not only is this a good movie, but also because it ties into a theatrical release, Predator Badlands, coming out this November. So I'm going to have an exception here and just briefly talk about Predator Killer Killer. So I'm just going to do my review now, and then I'm going to talk about some of my superlatives as well as key takeaways in another video. So here's my non-spoiler reaction. I thought this was awesome. I thought this was a great addition to the Predator franchise. I'm gonna get into more some of my likes and about this movie, but I just want to kind of give my non-spoiler reaction before I get into spoilers. But yeah, go see, like, if you're a fan of the Predator franchise, I think this is a worthy addition. Like, yeah, to be cautious, it is an animated movie. So if you're expecting a live action, no, it's not a live action movie. It's animated, but it works in terms of animation because there's certain things that they do in this movie that you can't get away with in live action. And also, like, in terms of the cost, I think they can't make this movie would cost too much money to make if it were live action. And obviously animation is also expensive, but the stuff that they were trying to do with this movie, especially like in the third act and having different time periods and stuff, I mean, I think that they would just be too much to justify the to budget. And the Predator franchise doesn't make that much money, so and I think what they're trying to do right now is drum up interest. Like, obviously, people like me who grew up watching the Predator movie, but also the new generation that may not be familiar with Predator, maybe watching stuff on streaming with Prey and Hulu. Hopefully, that generates interest so that when they come out with the theatrical releases, like with Badlands, then they can make that money. But here, it's an animated anthology where the predators basically in different time periods and different predators. There's the Viking period, I believe it's 1841 AD. There's the samurai period in, I believe it was 1629 AD. And then World War II fighter pilots in 1941 during obviously World War II. So in these anthologies, they all come together in like the final act of the film too. And then I'm going to go into spoilers right now, so I'm going to explain how it ties together in a minute. But right now, this is your cue to hit the pause button. If you haven't seen Predator Killer Killers, go to your Hulu or get like one of those free trials and watch it. And so you can check out this movie because it's worth your time to check out. Now, in terms of spoilers, so I was immediately drawn into the first story. It's called The Shield. And what drew me in was obviously the score. I mean, the score was like echoes of the original Predator score, but there was like some differences in it too, obviously. But when I hear the score, like I'm into it. I'm hearing the chants of the Vikings on their way to battle. You start to immediately see that this is a story about vengeance and the cost of vengeance, the relationship between Ursa, the protagonist Viking character, and her son. The Viking battles were awesome and gruesome. How they were trying to get information for that one guy and was cutting his leg off, and you see like the battles where there's like a whole bunch of decapitations, and like that one shot where she's just like using a shield on like different Viking enemies. Like, it was just so awesome and gruesome. And it's like, wow, this is amazing. Like, would I like to see this in live action? Sure. But what I got in terms of animation was awesome. And then I'm just into this story, like, and before the predator even shows up. And once the predator shows up, like, I'm like, dang, I'm like horrified for these Vikings because this predator's like all swole. He's like muscular. He has like this like sort of like sonic device that can repel people, and like he's using like all these devices to decapitate people. Like, I'm like worried for these guys. It's like they just took out like a whole Viking or enemies, and like they're just getting their asses handed to them. Now the female protagonist Ursa, like, she's a badass. She proved that in her battle, and she ends up being, the last one that the predator fights. Now, there was a fake out in this movie, and it kind of got me because I thought, like, from the beginning of the movie, she has this line with her son where she says something about she dies and, make her proud and avenge her or something like that. So I'm thinking, like, okay, that's foreshadowing that she's going to die and the son's going to be the one that lives on and fights the predator. But no, actually, the opposite happens. The son ends up dying and she's the one who lives on. And I'm actually kind of glad they did it that way because I liked her character. And I'm glad that we see her as the one who has to take on the predator at the end of this movie. So it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. I think this might have been my favorite one, but I love the other ones too. But I think this might have been my favorite one. Now, so we see at the end of the story, like when she's holding her son, it kind of transitions to her wearing this collar, and she seems to be in some sort of room, some sort of ship, with another figure in the background who's kind of like sitting in like a leg cross position, as if they're like praying or something. But he was like clearly wearing some kind of samurai garb. And so I get, okay, well, I knew this was about samurais too. I'm like, wait a minute, these characters from different time periods are in the same room? Like, how does that make any sense? Is it like a time travel thing? Is it like something where they're preserving these people? Like, I didn't know at the time, but obviously we get the reveal later on in the movie that basically the predators, when someone defeats a predator, they preserve them and basically brings them out to fight in this battle royale, like at some point in time, probably sometime after 1941, obviously, which is kind of like a little inconsistent from what we've seen in Predator 2, because in Predator 2, Danny Glover's character, Harrigan, after he defeats the Predator, there's a whole bunch of predators that surround him at the end of the movie, but they don't kidnap him and bring him to a preserve. They give him that 1715 gun that we see in this movie, and basically tell him to take it and leave him there. So I thought that was a little bit inconsistent, but we'll see what they do with that. Maybe that we have different predator clans of different customs in the predator culture, where some predators leave them out and to with a trophy, others take them to fight another battle at some point in the future. But I thought it was an interesting addition to the lore. Now, this scene, when we're jumping from one person to the next, and we like after one anthology ends and it moves to the next one, that scene reminds me totally of Enter the Dragon. That scene where Lee, Jim Kelly's character, Roper, when they're having their flashbacks, after the flashback ends, it pans to the next character and then the other flashback begins. This kind of reminds me of that, where after Ursa's flashback ended, it moved on to the samurai, and then after the samurais, it moved on to the pilots. That kind of reminded me of like Enter the Dragon when they were entering to the island for the tournament. So I thought that was cool. Now, Sword is the next one. That's the one with the samurai. This is basically, I was drawn in to the story with the two brothers. It's obviously about honor, vengeance. The brother, he's basically they're, I guess, forced to fight to win the approval of either the sensei or the father. And he gets cut because he doesn't want to fight, and then he's ashamed, so he runs off. But then, like, after the sensei father figure dies, then he comes back and starts, trying to restore his honor or vengeance. And so he dresses up like a ninja and starts killing like a bunch of samurai. And I thought that was so awesome. Like I was just enjoying the action, how he was, taking out all the samurai. But I was a little bit worried because I wanted to see the Predator fight some, samurai too. But it looked like the ninja took out all of them by the time he got to fight his brother. But fortunately, after that fight ended, we see the samurai come in after that, and that's who the Predator takes out. But yeah, it was awesome just to see like the ninja and the Predator, the Predator chasing the ninja on the rooftops. And I liked how it ended because it was a callback to the quote with the leaf. He basically said that the leaves grow together on trees, but they fall alone. And then you see that leaf fall and hit the Predator, giving away his position. And then the two brothers faked them out, and it made it seem like they were still engaged in combat, but they were actually working together to basically defeat this Predator. So I thought that was cool. And then finally, you have the bullet. That's the relation. Again, it's a relationship between the father and son. The father, basically says, "You're on your own, mijo." Gives him the draft letter. He has to basically learn how to figure things out on his own. He's like a mechanic. and he couldn't figure it out, but he kind of learns to do it on his own, and he's like an expert in terms of fixing things like planes, and finds himself going out in the battle to warn the other pilots that there's something out there, there's something that's taking them out, and it's not the enemy. A common thing that we see in Predator movies. But what is not common about other Predator movies is that we don't normally see a predator in his ship hunting other humans in their ships. So this is like a unique thing in the Predator franchise. I think it's like the most unique thing that we've seen so far in the Predator movie is, Predator not just like out there in the jungle or on terrain stalking other humans on terrain, but we see them in their ships and hunting people in their ships and in the human technology and stuff. So I thought that was pretty cool, and it adds obviously to the lore of the franchise. Now the tie-in was cool. Um, it adds to the lore of the franchise. Like we've seen in the movie Predators, how predators can take not people who necessarily fought predators before, but people who they deem worthy competition, to bring them to a game reserve, and they hunted them. That was in the Predators movie. But here they did something a little bit different. They took the victors from throughout different time periods and kidnapped them, preserved them in like that device that kind of reminds me of like an alien movie that extends like human life or whatever, where they're sleeping in a chamber. They take them from their time period, preserve them, and then in the future they have this fight to the death, a la Battle Royale or Hunger Games or Deadliest Warrior. You have different styles fighting against each other. Here you get a Viking and samurai fight, which is awesome. I don't think we'd ever see that, but that was cool. But we also see the three working together to defeat that large creature that kind of looked like it was like a Rancor or something from Star Wars. Now, they faked me out, because when that creature ate the pilot, I thought he was gone. But obviously, they showed him inside the stomach right away, and he's using the Predator arm to slice through it, and then the other two on the outside slicing the creature. So basically, they're all working in tandem together to defeat this common threat. And I like in the end how everything like ties together. It's because Ursa's story was about vengeance and avenging, and the cycle of violence, and how after her son died, she finally realized that she needed to break the cycle. So when she thinks that she's sacrificing herself to save the ninja guy and Torres, she says, "Don't avenge me," right? Like stop, stop the violence. Like, so she's learned, and she also calls him her sons as well. She says that to the predators, like that her sons are basically getting away. So the ninja, he calls Torres his brother, right? Like, because like basically he was working together with Torres and Ursa to defeat the common threat, just like he worked with his brother to defeat the monster as well. And then Torres actually uses his instincts and to basically figure out how to work the technology. Now I know it's like a human, figuring out how to work alien technology. I mean, that was a little bit of a stretch to me, but I got what they were going for. They're basically saying this guy is like so skilled, so gifted, he can use his instincts to even manipulate alien spacecraft. But I mean, I don't know if I quite bought that, but I'll just say, okay, fine, whatever. And then obviously at the end, we see Naru from Prey in one of those sleeping chambers. So obviously, when we see the end of Prey, the ship comes in the credits. We didn't know quite what that was, but obviously what it's saying is that she was kidnapped and brought and preserved. So to hopefully he can be used in future movies and in some of these battle royales. So yeah, and then one of the key messages about this movie is the universal language of fighting. I mean, you hear that music and math, the universal languages, but here you have these three people from different time periods that can't communicate with each other, but what they can communicate with is with fighting. And you see how they're nodding their heads and stuff and strategizing, because it's the whole message of the movie is about the universal language of fighting. So anyway, that's my thoughts on Predator Killer of Killers. It's an awesome movie. Hit the subscribe button so you can see more of my reviews. I'm going to talk about some of the superlatives about this movie, as well as some of the tie-ins that I think are going to happen in the Predator Badlands. Anyways, that's my thoughts for now. Until next time.